Hello and welcome to another digital lesson online on YouTube talking about section 19A, chapter 19. Yes, chapter 19. Yes, that chapter 19. We're going to be talking about modeling the electric field. Alright, so cool. Kind of have a lot to get through and I'm going to try to keep this lecture under 15 minutes, so let's see if we can do it. Alright, we're going to go ahead and start talking about this dude named Michael Faraday. Michael Faraday, here he is. We're going to talk about electric field. This guy looks like he knows a lot about electricity. Now, Michael Faraday was a 19th century English scientist. And he's one of my favorite scientists, actually. Why? Because he had little formal education. He gained most of his knowledge through personal study and experimentation, and as a result, Faraday's mathematical skills were somewhat limited. Does that sound familiar? It sounds like all of us. His mathematical skills were somewhat limited, little formal education, but he was observant. And I mean, we spent our first actual day together in physics class talking about how important observations were, and this dude kind of made the most of the limited stuff that he had. Alright, so this did not keep him from taking a non-mathematical theoretical approach to explain certain phenomena that he had observed. Faraday proposed a model of forces that has proved fruitful in many areas of physics, something called the field model. Now, the field model is a theoretical approach to accurately explaining such three-dimensional phenomena like magnetic, electric, and gravitational forces, as well as sound propagation and subatomic particle fluxes. So this dude came up with a model, the field model approach, and it really did help understand some really complicated things. All right, so this dude, pretty cool in my day, pretty cool in my book, pretty cool in my book. Now, you guys got this, cool. Now, Faraday considered each charged object to be surrounded by something that he called an electric field. Through this field, the charged object exerts a force on any other object that ventures into the field. And Faraday represented an electric field by something called lines of force. The lines of force give the direction and the force that the charged object exerts on a small positive charge. They also show the relative magnitude of the force at each point in the field. We have a direction and a magnitude. That means that lines of force can be largely considered to be vectors. Alright, so again, just trying to connect a bunch of stuff that we've talked about before. Alright, so just kind of keep that in mind, that lines of force give the direction of the force that the charged object exerts on a small positive charge, and they also show the relative magnitude. Okay? So that brings us to something that we call a test charge. Suppose there is more than one charged body. What is the electric field like between the objects? How can you measure its magnitude and direction? There are two ways that you can find the lines of force. First, you can use Coulomb's law to find the force that a positive test charge would experience between the bodies. And this calculation is helpful to define the electric field strength, which is defined as the letter E. So the electric field strength E is defined as the force divided by the charge. And if you kind of modify Coulomb's law and kind of work all of this into it, a more useful equation that you guys can use is the electric field strength is equal to the K value times the charge divided by the distance between the particles squared. So that's just a more useful formula for you guys to use. Now, for a test charge, the direction of E at any location in the field is tangent to the electric field line through that point. So here we have an example of an electric field of a positively charged object. I know that this is positively charged because all of these little plus signs on the inside. Now notice the electric field is going outward in all directions. And assuming that these things are, assuming that this surface is perfectly circular, you can see that all the lines going outwards, they are equidistant. Now here we have a test charge, and in this case it's going to go in the same direction. This is is right in the middle of these two, and this is parallel to all these other lines. Well, tangent. We should say it's tangent to the surface. Tangent to the surface. Or we should not say parallel. My bad. Okay. Another thing we should note about these test charges and the field model is that the arrows move away from the charge if it is positive and towards the charge if it is negative. So in this case, this charge is negative, so all the arrows are going to it. And in this case, this is a positive, so all the arrows are going out. All right. So kind of just keep that in mind, especially what happens if we have two charges kind of next to each other. All right. So we cool with this? Now here is an example of what I was talking about. Here I have a negative charge object and a positive charge object. And positive charges have arrows that go away from them, and negative charges that have arrows that go to them. So in this case, what's the relative charge pattern happening between them? Well, all the arrows from the positive one are going out and they're going to the negative one, and that should make sense considering that we know that opposite charges attract. You can see that why the arrows are going to each other. Does that make sense? I mean, you can't really answer me back because I can't hear what you're saying right now, but I hope that makes sense. All right, and notice that with all of these things, they start off equidistant, but the field lines kind of morph into these weird shapes. All right, where they start going off in tangent directions, but because this is going towards a line that wants to go towards the negative one, they start to pool together. Now, what would this look like if we had two positive charges? All right, over here we have a drawing of two positive charged objects. Now, typically, we know, or we're kind of learning, that for when we draw a field line for positive charges, the arrows go away. So let's go arrow away, arrow away, arrow away, arrow away, arrow away. And this guy has arrow aways. All right, arrows away. Now, these arrows want to go away from positive charges. So this guy can easily go this way as far as he wants, and this guy can go as far as he wants this way. And same thing with this. But what happens to these other ones that are pointing towards another positive charge? Well, actually, what they start to do is that when they get too close to each other, they just start to bend. All right? Notice. All right? If you ever have a positive one, they bend, but they do not touch. They actually do not want to touch each other, which does make sense, right? Because if we know that opposite charges attract and these electric field lines merge, we should know that like charges repel and they start to push away from each other. All right. So when we look at these field lines, we should know that a stronger field line is shown by lines that are closer together. All right, lines that are closer together. In these cases, these lines right here, this is a stronger pull than the ones that are farther apart. And field lines do not cross other field lines. So when you're drawing these field lines, they're not supposed to cross. They can merge if they are opposite charges, but they do not cross. All right, they kind of repel each other. Cool? Cool. So let's go ahead and talk about something called electrical potential and electrical potential energy. Electrical potential they're similar, but they're slightly different. We should know that electrical forces can do work. All forces, including electrical forces, can do work. Let's switch to the next slide for you guys. I'll give you a lot more to write. When an electrified piece of amber attracts a dry leaf, it does work on the leaf. Pushing like charges together or pulling unlike charges apart requires work, just as lifting a mass against gravity requires work. A lifted mass has gravitational potential energy since it can fall. So you remember we talked about potential energy depends on the height from the surface that it can fall. That was a long time ago. Similarly, a positive charge pushed near another positively charged object has potential energy with respect to the electrostatic force, since it will be repelled and moved away if allowed. So electrical potential energy, or we'll say capital U sub E, is a measure of the amount of mechanical work that is necessary to move a charge from the location of a point charge to a radial location R from the point charge. The idea here is when you have two like charges, two positive charges, if you just hold them in place, since they repel, they want to move away from each other. Now, if I let go of them, they're going to move apart. And because they have potential energy to move apart, if unacted upon, then it has electrical potential energy. Now, the electrical potential, in contrast, is the amount of work per unit charge. So amount of work, and we're going to go ahead and highlight amount of work per unit charge that is needed to move a charge the same distance r from the point charge. Okay, so this looks like a lot of just words for you to copy down. I guess I really do want you guys to understand this, but I also want you guys to be able to use this. So let's go ahead and look at a more useful equation that you can use. Well, electrical potential, or capital V, is equal to the the electrical potential energy divided by the charge. But a more useful formula is probably going to be this one. When I say more useful, it means that like the one that you are more likely to use on a test if there is a math question. Dun dun dun. All right. Real quick comparison, you don't have to write these down, you can just look at these things. There is a good comparison that we can make between gravitational force and electrical force. Very similar. We talked about gravitational force a long time ago, where we had the universal gravitational constant and the masses of the two objects and then the distance between them. Well, electrical force, very similar. And we can also compare gravitational potential energy and electrical potential energy using very similar equations. Again, you don't have to know a whole lot about this. I just think it's kind of interesting and a good comparison to make. Now, something I do need you guys to write about is something called potential difference. Potential difference is the difference in electrical potential energy. We're going to say that is delta V, or the change in potential and electrical potential. Electrical potential and potential difference are measured in joules per coulomb. All right. So, or we can call that a volt. A volt, by definition, is 1 joule for every 1 coulomb. 1 joule for every 1 coulomb. Now, field strength is related to the rate of change of the potential difference with the position in electrical field. So in this case, we talked a long time ago about E. We said that E was the electrical field strength. And if we take the change in potential divided by the position difference, right? Then we will get our electric field strength. Okay. Equipotential surface is defined as an imaginary surface in an electrical field on which the electrical potential is the same at all points. I think the best way to look at this, in the last slide that we have to copy down, is this one. Equipotential surface lines exist in 3 dimensions, but are typically drawn in 2 dimensions. We want to kind of pay attention to the spacing. Notice that this is a perfect circle, so all of these things are equidistant and going outwards because they're positive. Notice that this charged object has a weird surface, and they actually are different distances and they do not cross. Right? If you had a bigger object that had more of a charge, you're going to have more charges on the outside, and it's kind of relative to the shape. All right. So these are examples of equipotential surface lines. All right. that's it. Make sure you do your homework. See ya.